Alright guys, so we are back at my buddy's house. I am continuing to work on the truck, trying to get a few odds and ends things done to it so that way we'll be ready for some big overland trips that I got planned throughout the winter. One of the problems that I'm having right now going from the Kia back to the Ford is the lack of interior space that the Ford has, and I'm needing to be able to try to get my gear a little better organized. It's just kind of strewn around inside the Ford. It's a mess. It's driving me absolutely nuts. It's always kind of been like this. So I've come up with an idea for building a shelf system in the back seat area so that I can maintain a place for Wheeler to lay, because that's usually where he lays, but at the same time gain some storage space. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the back seat out of the truck and we're going to build a storage area utilizing some of the Unistrut that we pulled out of the car. So many of you probably remember I did a video right here at my buddy's house, and we built a Unistrut racking system for the back of the car. When I returned the car, I pulled all that Unistrut out, and I'm going to reuse that along with a few other pieces, and we're going to build the shelf system. So that's kind of part of the plan. So for people that like enjoy watching my channel and enjoy the trips, we are, I've got lots of trips planned, but we are going to have a few videos coming up in the next, few days of just preparations. I think that's just as important as seeing the trips themselves, but seeing some of the prep and work that goes into accessorizing and building my overland vehicle, not only the vehicle but the trailer behind me, that I use often in my trips, or all the time in my trips actually. So I hope you guys enjoy some of these videos, but just understand, if this isn't your cup of tea, understand we are going to be getting back to the whole point of these videos is to get out there and start doing some more overlanding, and I do have some big trips coming up. But anyways, let's get started with this build. Alright guys, so before I decided to get started on this build, I wanted to make sure and get an idea of how I wanted this to look and how I wanted to come out. So I've been playing around a lot with Autodesk Fusion 360, and I'm not sponsored. This is not a sponsored ad. I'm just kind of explaining what I use, but I've been playing around a lot with it and learning how to model in a 3D environment some of my ideas that I come up with, especially stuff that I want either built for the truck or the trailer. So what I did is I was able to go on Unistrut's website, and again, I'm not sponsored by Unistrut either. I just like using it because it's handy. I was able to go on their website and download 3D models of all the strut pieces and fittings and everything. And so what I did is I modeled everything up in a 3D environment. So now I have all the measurements. So I went and measured the truck, got all my measurements there, and then actually built the shelf that I want within the 3D model. So this is going to help the process out a lot, because now I already know how long every piece needs to be cut and how every piece is going to be going together, and what accessories I need to be able to put the thing together. So we're going to get started right there with just going through and cutting all the pieces to length that I need, and then hopefully it should just be something as simple as assembling everything. Alright guys, so before we get to cutting the Unistrut, the first thing we actually need to do is finish taking apart all the pieces that I pulled out of the car. One of the reasons why I like working with Unistrut is it doesn't require any special skills. Like, you don't have to weld anything. It's just basically all fittings and fasteners, and it's kind of like a big erector set for kids. If you basically have a 9/16 wrench and some way to cut the steel, like even just a regular hand hacksaw, you can build some pretty cool stuff out of Unistrut. So anyways, the first thing I'm going to do here is we are going to get this all torn apart, get all the pieces separated, make sure we set everything aside, all our spring nuts and bolts and everything we'll set aside, because we're going to reuse probably a good portion of everything we have here in this build. So I want to make sure that I don't lose anything. All right, so we're gonna get ready to start cutting the strut. I got everything labeled and marked, so I got all the little pieces that we're gonna need to cut ready to go. Alright guys, so now I have everything cut and deburred. Definitely don't skip the deburring part of cutting the Unistrut, just because of the fact it does leave some really sharp edges and you don't want to get yourself cut while you're working with it. But anyways, now that everything is cut, what I'm going to do is actually assemble everything out here and not inside the pickup truck, because I'm not sure I got all the right little odds and end pieces to make everything work, and I'm going to have to do some figuring out there as I put it together, so it'll be a lot easier to do that out here and not try to do it within the confines of the vehicle. Once everything is figured out and I can get it put together, it'll be really quick and easy for me to just disassemble it at that point and then reassemble it inside the vehicle. Alright, so everything has gone together really simply so far. I'm really happy with how everything's going. But we've gotten to the part of the build that things are going to slow down just a little bit, because as you can see here, this is going to go against here, and actually this extra bit here that you see sticking up now is going to be coming at the bottom, so it's going to be more like this in the truck, because the way the back of the truck is, there's a slight shelf in the back, so this back part's going to sit on the shelf, and then this is going to extend down so that the whole thing sits level inside. But as you see, there's going to be a bit of an angle there, and I've got these, angle brackets, but of course they're not going to work just quite right. So what I'm going to do is bend these brackets. This one's going to actually be down here like so, but bend these brackets so that they're at the right angle, so that I can bolt these legs on. Alright guys, so I decided to take a break from the project yesterday, and we are on a new day today. At this point, I feel like what I want to do is get the back seat out that I'm going to take out, and test fit the frame in there. After kind of looking at everything a little bit, I'm a little bit concerned that the center console is going to interfere with where I have the center post on the frame. And so if that's the case, it's not going to be a big deal. It's just going to be as much as anything is just shifting it over to the side a little bit. So I want to kind of see if that's going to be a problem before I start actually cutting and fitting my plywood platforms to the frame. So yeah, we're going to tear the seat out now. Alright guys, so we've got the frame in here and everything's looking okay now. As I suspected, the center console ended up becoming a problem, and having the bar right in the center wasn't going to work out. So I ended up actually building a second bar and then shifting them so that they are on each side of the center console. The center console is one part of the truck's front seat that does not move. It doesn't shift back and forward like the actual seats do. But yeah, so that was a little bit of a pain. I had to pull it out, build the other piece, and that took a little bit of time. So now we are finally back to where I was hoping to be a long time ago, and that is we are ready to start cutting the pieces of plywood for the two platforms. So the idea here is that we're going to have a shelf on this up here on top that's going to go all the way across. This will eventually have a mattress on top, and this will be the dog beds, and hopefully where both dogs will be able to ride when they are in the truck. Down below, we're going to be putting another shelf down here, piece of plywood, and this is where camera gear and other gear will be able to be stowed in the truck, and that way also too, being underneath with the door shut and everything, if somebody was to look in, they're not going to see it down there. So anyways, so that should add hopefully an extra level of security for my gear. But anyways, let's get a few measurements made, and let's get this plywood done so we can get this project wrapped up. Alright guys, so you know how you start a project and you think it's only going to take a certain amount of time, and then it ends up taking twice as long? That's kind of been this project, but in all, it's all come together. We've got the pieces of plywood in, and that's making the shelves. I've already kind of started playing around just a little bit with putting some of my gear in here. I've got the mattress set up for the dogs and cut to shape for them, so I'm really excited about that. I feel like really confident that that's going to be plenty enough room up there for both dogs. And that's going to free up my front seat. So one of the bigger problems that I had with the truck was I always had a dog in the front seat. So if anybody wanted to ride with me, there was just no room for them to sit. And that was kind of a pain. Or another thing is I've got some area now that I'm going to work to set aside for a charging station for all my charging equipment. And a lot of that was on the floor in the front seat. And so again, if I did get somebody in the truck, then their feet were kicking around all my batteries and charging equipment and all that stuff, and I didn't like that either. So now I've kind of got a dedicated spot. It needs a little bit of work yet to kind of figure out how I'm going to keep everything nailed down, but there's a spot now for it. Spot now for the dogs. Plenty of room on the other side underneath for my camera gear and keeping it on the shape. There's also some space underneath here for tripods and some other gear that I have. So all in all, I'm very excited about this. This was a huge space gainer for me in the truck. You know, like my biggest challenge has always been space or interior space with this truck, and this made a huge difference. So I'm really excited about it. Anyways, I hope basically that this, as much as anything, just kind of gave you some ideas, maybe that you can use Unistrut for, or just giving you some ideas, period. You know, when you're building out your overland vehicle and stuff like that, space is always a premium, and trying to figure out how to organize and keep things can be challenging. And so again, I hope this maybe maybe spurred some ideas for you guys. If you guys like this video, please do give it a like. If you have any comments or questions, please leave those down in the comment section below. If you didn't like this video at all, feel free to leave a dislike, and we'll catch you guys again outside.